In my quest to reread Attack on Titan now that it's finished, to see how it all wraps together and witness the whole series once more in all of its glory, I went back through the very beginning of the series, including the fall of Shiganshina and primarily the Battle for Trost District Arc, for the first time in over 7 years since the first season of the anime came out. Reading and seeing once again the small, humble beginnings of Attack on Titan, as the fresh-faced training corps are faced with a second invasion from the colossal and armored Titan, climaxing in the epic Atlas moment from Eren plugging the hole in Wall Rose and giving humanity their first ever win against the Titans was awesome. And this arc, one that many no longer really talk about, or is at least left in the recesses of their brain as Attack on Titan expands and evolves into world wars and discussions of genocide, is absolutely magnificent in building the thematic foundation that Attack on Titan now stands on, with some of the most important character development for Eren, Mikasa, and Armin individually and as a trio, along with all of the Survey Corps to be, as well as exploring the idea of overcoming absolute hopelessness. This arc is so important. It stakes the theme that has always lasted throughout the show since then, of not succumbing to despair and continuing the battle for the sake of, if not yourself, the world around you. Looking back at it now, it is so monumental in establishing our characters' inspirations for fighting and who they are now. And today I'm breaking down, in my longest video yet, the entirety of the beginning of Attack on Titan and the beauty of the Battle of Trost District and its aftermath. The Trost District Arc establishes the fundamental basis of Attack on Titan at the beginning of the show, which is that humanity's on their last legs. Many of the new training corps, who you would expect to be inspired to fight and defend humanity, are simply in it to live cozy lives within the walls, like Jean, to finally be able to escape the front line. I mean, they have a good reason. For every Titan that they defeat, 30 humans die on average. I mean, it makes sense to not want to go out there and honestly just go to your death.
Hello there.
But now that it's been 5 years since the first Colossal Titan attack, people are beginning to escape that fear, live their normal lives. The human race is taking back their dignity. Until, of course, the return of the Colossal Titan. Once again, the same reminder that humans can do nothing when faced with such an indomitable foe. And history repeats itself as the armored Titan breaks a hole in Wall Maria. And to switch to the anime real quick here, the way that the silence contrasts with the sudden shift into battle music right after is just absolutely beautiful. The Colossal Titan appears so quickly that even the soundtrack doesn't have time to react. We're left in absolute awe. And the new recruits at this point are naive. They think that they'll be the ones to counterattack this time, and this is where the fear begins. As they begin to fight back, the very first Titan that they even encounter eats Thomas, takes off Eren's leg, and devours the rest of the squad in front of Armin. Why do I have to watch my comrades being eaten? Is this what I signed up for? And after witnessing Eren sacrifice himself for Armin, there's nothing left. Within the blink of an eye, he's alone. 5 years of training and sacrifice gone like that to just become another lost soul. The cannons don't kill Titans, humans can't kill them either. The naive hope that anyone had, they realized was misplaced. This place hasn't become hell. It's always been hell. They aren't fighting to win, they're fighting until the Titans eat them. And all of these lines, many of which I took directly from the manga, clarify that humans are the lowest of the low right now. And this is seen in all of the corpse psyche before we get our first shred of hope. The shifting point in this arc is Pixis' speech on top of the wall. And honestly, I forgot how great of a character Pixis is until I reread this. He's the perfect representation of a man that understands that humans have no other options, that any shred of hope is needed to overcome their innate and inextinguishable fear of Titans. All of the Corps who have gathered underneath Pixis question whether they can take back Trost. Who can even seal that hole? They're sending us back in there for another death sentence? They would all rather run and possibly die trying, then continuing with this duty. Until Pixis' rousing call to attention, where he reveals the plan to have Eren turn into a Titan and plug the wall. Which, of course, no one would believe. No one would believe that a human can turn into a Titan, and even if they do, the center of the plan revolves around Eren becoming a Titan, which is still uncertain whether he can even pull that off. And as they all prepare to leave, abandon this foolish idea, something they've been ready to do since the start, Pixis says that anyone who leaves right now will go unpunished. That anyone who is too afraid to fight the enemy should leave, but also that anyone who would want their parents, siblings, and loved ones to feel that same fear, that same hopelessness, should leave with them. And it's just an absolutely beautiful line from Pixis and beautiful writing from Isayama. It reminds humanity of why they're fighting. Not for their lives, not to live cozily within the walls, but to make sure that the people they love and the people who can't fight don't have to suffer that inevitable pain. It's the first glimmer of hope that not just they've seen, but that we as readers have seen in this very dark manga so far. It's a deep dive into the human psyche and what drives us to continue fighting, how we can't necessarily abandon our fear. But hope can be the one thing that lets us go on despite it. That's what this arc is all about. And Eren represents that hope. One of the course says how, after we see Eren can't control his power at first, they still can't abandon him. Because unlike them, mere humans, there isn't anyone who can replace Eren and what he stands for. Honestly, at this point, you don't even know if the people saying all these things believe it themselves, but it's all they can do to keep themselves together, to make themselves believe it. They sacrifice their air mobility with ODM gear to lure Titans away from Eren, leading to countless deaths just so he can make it all the way. That's what's so human about this first part of Attack on Titan. It's simply man versus Titan, the ultimate overcoming of the innate human desire to survive for the sake of a better future. Before Eren regains consciousness, he has a dream. He has one obvious reason for why he would want to go outside of the walls and to the hell that awaited them there. Because he was born into this world. Because humans will always strive to keep fighting and keep going through any challenges awaiting them. And again, here I have to give credit to the beautiful OST of Attack on Titan and its perfect timing. This moment is just absolutely magnificent. It doesn't matter how terrifying the world is. It doesn't matter how cruel the world is. Fight. And they get that win. Eren, just like Atlas in the Greek myths, holds the world and the future of humanity above him as he closes that hole in a blaze of glory. Humanity finally has its first victory. But, of course, too many lives were lost for them to revel in that glory. This moment establishes how every fight from now on will be in Attack on Titan, filled with sacrifice. This arc makes clear that there will be no easy victory in this series to come forth. With all the death that went for this one victory, was it worth it? As they burn the remains of their friends who they can no longer even identify, is this victory? Is this how it's supposed to feel? Even Eren, who won the battle for everyone, who everyone put their lives on the line for, is chained to a bed after it all, has to go through a trial. There is never gain without loss in Attack on Titan, something we come to accept as the Battle of Trost comes to a close. It's really important for us readers. And throughout this entire arc, not only are the parts I've gone through so far really crucial, but most of all it is absolutely vital in developing our characters from the start and clearly defining all their goals, especially Armin. Now, I've already made a video before on why I love Armin and why his character is so important, but I didn't go into an intense amount of detail into the very introduction of his character and what he goes through in Trost, more so a broader view of it all. So here I'll dive into the micro of what he goes through and overcomes in this arc, which is his evolution from being protected and feeling worthless to finding his own value and moving past this self-loathing. Along with what I was saying earlier, once Armin enters the fight and immediately his entire squad is eaten, it reinforces his own thoughts of himself as worthless, as always being defended by others and never being able to act himself. But that all changes when his moment comes and where he defends Eren to the rest of the Corps and pleads to them to let him survive. when Eren and Mikasa give Armin the final call on what they should do, when he realizes that the friends he had always depended on and felt like he wasn't equal to reminded him that they have never thought of him in that way. This is the first and, in my opinion, the best moment to show the kind of bond that these three characters have. One that inherently relies on codependence and trusting each other more than anyone else in the world. Eren and Mikasa would have died here if it weren't for Armin. Likewise, when Armin has to wake Eren up in his Titan form to carry the rock, this arc would have ended in absolute failure if Armin weren't there, if he didn't remind Eren of what they were all fighting for. And it's this shift of him becoming more confident in himself and helping his friends that is so inspiring and great for his character. Check out my video on Armin if you want to hear more about why I love his arc and growth. And speaking of these three characters, another important aspect of this arc is making clear what Mikasa and Eren's bond is. The relationship between Mikasa and Eren is very complex, something that manga readers I'm sure can agree with now that the series has ended. Mikasa, ever since she was saved by Eren as kids, has essentially acted as his protector. We see their mother entrust this role to her as she's dying, and begs Mikasa to take Eren away, who she knows would never leave. She is always there to keep him in check, whether he says something stupid or fights with Jean or whatever. But we also see the other side of it in Mikasa's utter dependence on him as the only home she has left. She talks about how as long as Eren is around, she can do anything, which is rather naive and pretty simple-minded. Up until the conclusion of this arc, Mikasa very rarely takes her own life's value into consideration. But, of course, just like Armin, this changes when she realizes that Eren died, but decides that she'll continue to live on even if it is only to remember him. We see her now as an individual character, but one who, of course, still prioritizes Eren. Even if she isn't relying on him now, her life is still devoted to him. They almost have this competition between one another to see who can sacrifice more for the other, who can defend the other the most. They will essentially always be one another's pillar, which makes me kind of feel bad for Armin for third wheeling, but you know, he gets his own growth this arc, so it's okay. It's the kind of bond that will continue not just until death, but even beyond it.
Eren.
Fight!
I think Jean and Reiner are the two other side characters who received the most development during this arc, which shouldn't really be surprising, as both of them are some kind of parallel with Eren. Jean is similarly headstrong to Eren, but realistic. And Reiner is another tragic character with a similar story to Eren, and in the future actually acts as his rival, as we see now. But let's focus on Jean first. Jean's attitude starts off as solely wanting to rank high in the training corps so he can live comfortably in the military police, which is, of course, understandable. As I was talking about earlier, the world up to this point is filled with despair. Humanity has never won against the Titans, who continue to corner them further and further within the walls. He even says himself how he is the one, more so than anyone else, that's looking at reality. Jean embodies the helplessness that humanity feels, and Isayama kind of uses him as a scapegoat at first. He's purposely meant to seem like that pessimistic and annoying character, because he doesn't really understand what hope is. But of course that changes very quickly, and that change is a result of Marco, an old but hopefully not forgotten character. Now, a lot of Marco's depth is actually cut from the anime, so here I'm talking mainly about the manga. Marco is described as a natural leader by Eren. In a test where you kill fake titans to gain points and increase your standing within the training corps, something that you need to be able to join the military corps and have a nice life, honestly, Marco instead acted to attract the titans' attention, something he acknowledges as pointless in this kind of test. And then Jean is immediately confronted with the sad truth that Marco was killed in the battle for Trost, unknown to anyone. Of course, now we know what happened, but we didn't then. It was just another testament to the worthlessness of a human life in our eyes and in the characters, that such an important and inspiring person can disappear just like that without anyone remembering. And then we get to the scene where they're burning the corpses and Jean decides to join the corps. He has an obligation to Marco, who was erased from history because he was at the wrong place and at the wrong time, to guide others as Marco would have wanted him to. Jean's difficult decision to join the Survey Corps, to not resign himself to his weakness but use it to guide others, is beautiful. The scene as everyone stands in front of Jean, in front of the burning remains of their allies, saying that he will continue on so that they don't end up like that. It's the ultimate triumph of a pessimistic human growing up, which is what, again, this arc is really all about.
俺は決めたぞ。俺は調査兵団になる。
And when Reiner is first introduced here during their time as training corps, he connects with Eren over their absolute determination in their goal. Eren in killing all Titans, and Reiner in returning home. Unlike Armin and Bertholdt, who are also part of the conversation, these two very purposeful and charismatic characters really take the spotlight. I mean, it's just such a great conversation as well, seeing the parallelism between Eren and Armin and Bertholdt and Reiner, after of course knowing all of their backstories. Reiner doesn't necessarily experience too much growth in this arc, but his added presence in Eren's life is very important. Reiner, as someone who is versed in the pain of being a soldier, of not meeting expectations and having to move on despite losses, like with Marcel, makes him the only one who Eren can really take advice from here. It just establishes this really crucial dynamic between them, one where they both feed off each other's strengths and see themselves in each other. It's really interesting to compare how they first met to how they are now in the anime, which actually brings up my last point, which is the foreshadowing.
お主もやるか。頂戴します。
Of course, as you all know, there are a lot of foreshadowing moments at the beginning of Attack on Titan. Like, Isayama knew what he was doing from the start. Reiner's immediate reaction to hearing Eren transform into a Titan and seeing the smoke, all of the panels of him, Annie, and Bertholdt together, all of it is great. But there were two moments that really stood out to me personally. The first being a single line that was said when the Corps were ready to execute Eren for being a Titan, where the man says, "No man can prove that he's not a devil." Which of course has huge implications now in the discussions of racism against Eldians and subjects of Ymir in the anime. It was just a really interesting point, that everyone thinks this way, not just Marlians. Even Eldians when faced with a Titan think exactly like that. All humans are innately the same. And the second and most important part of this arc in my opinion was the discussion between Pixis and Eren above Wall Maria. And this part of the video does have manga spoilers, guys, so I'm sorry if you're this far in your anime only, but this part is absolutely vital to understanding the finale of the series, and is one of, if not the biggest moments of foreshadowing in all of Attack on Titan. So you might want to skip, or actually just stop watching the video probably, I don't have anything after this part, if you don't want any spoilers. But anyway, Pixis talks about before Titans existed, when humans were constantly in conflict with one another, over disputes and ideologies, and this is where he says a theory. If a powerful, non-human enemy appeared, humanity would probably unite and stop fighting itself. And what Eren says in response is that, that's pretty rosy, it's dull, it's unrealistic. Which initially surprised me looking back at it now, considering that Eren is essentially doing that at the end of the story. But thinking about it a bit more, it made perfect sense. He says that even now, in the Trost arc, when Titans corner humanity and they all have one common foe, humans are still far from united. But he also says that if they don't come together soon, continuing to fight will be too much for them. Eren has always known from this moment that becoming the single enemy to humankind won't be the end of all things. And during the finale of the series, he acknowledges that he must entrust the rest to Armin and the Corps to find the solution because he's always known it wouldn't be as perfect as pulling a Lelouch. If you don't know what that means, watch this video. I just thought that this was really interesting, and just another tribute to Isayama always knowing how he would craft this story from the start. And that is my full review of the beginning of Attack on Titan and Trost District Arc, and why it is absolutely incredible. Tell me if you guys like these longer analyses of specific arcs, or just parts of Attack on Titan, and I'll be sure to pump out more in the future if so.